Hey guys, Karen back for Colony, Season 1, Episode 6, Yoknapatawpha. I don't really know how you pronounce that, I have to say. But I was obviously really looking forward to this episode. But I was a bit worried because, of course, the reveal of Geronimo, but I was also intrigued by seeing really what was going to happen there. And this episode was a full-on thrill ride. I mean, this episode had non-stop tension going throughout it. There were some really crazy scenes in this episode, some really devastating things as well, but also we're really getting closer to that reveal, and I really feel that Katie is not going to be able to keep up this charade for that much longer, because definitely Will is going to know very soon. Let's just get into this episode because there's a lot to get into. Now, the way this episode starts is very interesting. We kind of get a prelude in this episode, almost like, we're going to find out something bigger, but we see kind of like this recap of, like, Luis and what happened and how he was hanged and everything, and, we then see this woman who lives in a very nice mansion, and she's interrupted by Yoga from a phone call as the broadcast of the hanging plays out on the television, and gets in a discussion about Snyder's actions. And the two biggest things about this is that we do get our first look into the wall and how big it is and how far it stretches, which is almost in the ocean, which is pretty incredible. But we also only see her side of the conversation, and we don't really know who she's talking to, and it's never confirmed who she really is. I'm thinking that she's Helena, his boss and everything, but we don't really know. We don't really know who she is and why she's there or whatever, but very interesting stuff. Definitely something that is going to come back, later in the episode, so we'll have to see what comes up. Definitely something that's going to come up later in the season. But then we get to the real star of the episode, where we basically see Will. He's stuck in a car with Snyder at the proxy's motorcade, heads to an unknown destination, and he questions Snyder on the point of his courtroom melodrama, the execution of Luis. And Snyder's reasoning is that he gave people the illusion of justice, and while appeasing them, reminding the public that law and order will endure in the block. And we know his primary motivation was, of course, to impress Helena. That's why he did this. He did this to impress her and the host. That's really the only reason. And he wanted to, because he didn't want him to make himself look like an idiot. But he's not going to tell Will that, because Will doesn't know about Helena. Will doesn't know that Snyder's a boss. And I feel like Snyder doesn't want to tell him because he feels like a coward. He feels like he just feels like he, seemed like the leader, and then it's going to, make Will really upset and things like that. So it's just better for him not to know. But definitely Will's going to find out, especially from that phone call that Helena had. We don't really know what that's about. We'll have to see what that's all about, though. So Will believes that all Snyder did was piss off people by martying Geronimo, but Snyder's confident that self-interest will win out. People are just happy to be alive and relatively free, and the Resistance will think twice before getting involved themselves. So Snyder's clueless to the fact the Resistance has not been the least bit deterred, and in fact have set their sights on him. And Broussard diverts the motorcade to a lesser populated route thanks to a fake construction site set up for this exact purpose. He shoots the three of the Red Hats in the car, causing an accident that grinds the motorcade to a halt, and we know, of course, that that's who Will and Snyder are going after, is the Resistance, and we also know that Katie is part of this, and whatever Quayle's plans for Snyder, they are derailed by Will, because we don't really know what their plans are, but that's not really important, because we know that Will is going to foil it right away, and he's able to fight off the Red Hats long enough to climb into the driver's seat. As skilled as Will is, he still almost gets his head blown off. I mean, he literally just made, and they're obviously not going to kill off Will, he's the main character, but the redhead with the clear shot is Broussard, and he keeps his promise to Katie that he's going to keep her safe, because remember, he promised her that, and I like that he's actually keeping this promise to her. I thought that there's no way he would, but Broussard really does seem to care about her, and it really seems like he will, in fact, give in to her appeasement, and he is going to, listen to her. So I thought that was interesting when we saw that. So Will takes off with Snyder, drones descend on the scene, and Will, realizing that they aren't in danger yet, ditches the car, continues to flee with a reluctant Snyder on foot, and Will makes it clear as Snyder second guesses every move that Will makes, that if Snyder doesn't want to get captured, tortured, and killed, he'll keep his mouth shut and do as he's told. So basically, Katie then arrives at the Yonk, and her involvement in the attack on Snyder was limited to sitting on the paraferry holding a stopwatch, because she really didn't do much at all, which is really interesting, but it makes sense because, one, she obviously doesn't want Will to see her, so she did something that was not huge. Two, we know that she does not like to do this violence. We know how she gets around violence. We know how scared it makes her, and we know that she herself is not comfortable with doing such a thing. So it makes sense to me why she was not involved in all the violence. It definitely makes sense. So basically, we then see the Will rise to the bar with Snyder. He tells Katie that he thinks that they just got ambushed and he thinks it was a kidnapping attempt, but Snyder believes that it's a coup. And why else would all those red hats turn on him? That it has to be that someone is against them. And when Will suggests they may have been members of the resistance, Snyder's incredulous of the thought that terrorists were able to infiltrate Homeland Security, and Snyder refuses to let Will use his radio to alert the task force. He's now completely paranoid and doesn't want anything going out over the air, which I like seeing Snyder again, hard to hold himself together. I mean, again, Will thinks that Snyder is the man in charge of everything, but Snyder is just scrambling like crazy and hanging on by his fingernails pretty much. And Snyder assures Will that those who are still loyal to him will be hitting the streets, poking, looking for him soon enough, and basically Will tells Snyder that that better be the case because whatever organized this hit has put a lot of time and resources into it, and they will be going door to door looking for the golden goose. So obviously, Will's really worried that this definitely is not the end of the attack. He knows there's more to come. And the worst part, of course, is that Katie is not telling him about it. And basically, we see that none of the landlines are working, but Katie tells Will there's a payphone a few blocks away and a working payphone. Which makes sense. In this world, it kind of does make sense, because as you know, some resources aren't as easy to get, and when, power goes off, things like that, a payphone, I think, would make sense here. So Katie discovers that Will is injured, volunteers to go herself, but Snyder insists that she can't leave, and Will was just grazed by a bullet fragment, and isn't in danger of bleeding to death, so she's determined to head out, find the phone, and call in the cavalry, and Snyder isn't thrilled to be left behind, but he's too much of a pussy to tag along. He just doesn't want to do that. And I like seeing that. I like seeing that Snyder himself is a coward. He's not going to go with them. Even though he is supposed to be the big ruler of this town, he's not going to do anything violent. He just doesn't do that kind of stuff. So he stays with Katie. She suggested he might be safer weighing it out in the back office, and we see that Quayle's cells return to their hideout, and as expected, the outcome is not what they had hoped. Quayle wants to know what went wrong. Broussard informs him that Will was with Snyder, pulled some cowboy shit, and got Snyder out. Broussard wants to reconsider their option, but Quayle insists that they cannot walk away, and Katie then contacts Broussard, lets him know that Snyder is at the Yonk. She also reinforces the fact that Will remains off limits, and Katie warns him that they don't have much time, and Broussard heads out, and I like that she still wants to protect Will. It's not going to really work out, because we know that eventually someone's going to go after Will, and he's going to find out what she's doing, but it's clear that her main goal here is to protect Will. That's what she wants to do, and basically that's what's going on there. So Katie then used her time alone with Snyder to find a little bit more about how he rose to power under the new regime, which I think was a good idea to do, because she knows how powerful he is. She knows what he's capable of. It makes sense why she wants to stay with him and, make sure how he rose to power. And we get some really great scenes between these two. Katie and Snyder haven't had a ton of scenes here. They've had some here and there, but it's been a lot of Will and Snyder. So seeing these scenes between Katie and Snyder, I really did love seeing. By the way, guys, I forgot to say, by far best episode of the season. Definitely best episode of the season. So Snyder tells Katie that he was a provost at Stanford University, and they, the Raps, needed someone who could get their arms around a new form of government and bring about order and control quickly and peacefully. And I think this is true. I don't think that he's lying about this, and basically Katie questions if they came to him before the arrival, but Snyder says that it was after the arrival, and Katie wonders why they would choose him and not public officials with experience, but Snyder doesn't know why, because this is just someone they randomly chose for whatever reason. So that part of the story, I don't really think makes a lot of sense. I mean, why would they choose him? He didn't really give a genuine reason. So part of this, I think, is true. It's kind of like the story that, what's her name gave last week. I can't think of her name right now. The one that Will is suspicious of and not really now. What was her name? Let me check real fast. What was her name? I know I'm talking about. I just can't think of her name right now. What was her name? Jennifer. It's very much like what Jennifer said, where there's some things I feel are true, and then some things that I just don't believe at all. Very much like what this scene was like with Snyder. I believe some things, and then some things I'm just like, no, that does not make any sense whatsoever. So, basically, Katie questions, and I just read this. So basically, Katie asked Snyder how he got to Los Angeles, and he says that they relocated him, and he missed that there are 7 colonies that he knows about spread throughout California, Oregon, and Washington, and Katie's doing a pretty stellar job at gathering intel without using torture, because obviously she wants this information. And as for the land that exists between the colonies, Snyder assures Katie that it's somewhere she does not want to be, and this is what's very interesting. As we know in the first scene, we got to see something that's not in the colonies. It's on the other side of the wall, so clearly there's something going on the other side of the wall that we just don't know about, and life seems to be actually better there, so we'll have to see what's going on there, because there's definitely something that Snyder knows that he doesn't want anyone else to know, so that's very interesting. So their hearts are hearts interrupted by Will returning. Help is on the way, but he says will take about 20 minutes. Katie administers first aid to her husband out of Snyder's earshot. Any reason, basically. She asks Will if he thinks his attack was retribution for Geronimo's followers, but Will tells her no. Geronimo wasn't the folk hero everybody thinks he was, and Katie wants to know more, but Will leaves it at that, and I think it's good that he said that to her, because it's true. He's not who they thought he was. And Kate, and of course, this is her way of getting information. This is what she's trying to do. She's trying to get information here. And Katie urges Will to turn Snyder over to whoever's looking for him. And Will doesn't really see the point, because if Snyder dies, another bureaucrat with an agenda just replaces the proxy governor, and they'll get someone just as bad. So better to stick with the devil you know than the devil you don't. And I really do agree with that, because since Will knows how bad Snyder is and what Snyder is capable of, I mean, he can really give in to him, he can get used to him and things like that, and, Snyder promised him things. The other one might not, so I think that's really what Will's thinking is that, Snyder promised him to get Charlie back. The other proxy might not be as reasonable and could even end up just sending him to the factory. I mean, I think any other proxy probably would just send them to the factory anyway, so definitely, we know that how negotiable Snyder really is. So they exit the restroom to find Snyder hovering, and they realizing the precariousness of his current predicament, Snyder tells Katie and Will that Charlie is alive, and Will wants to know if Snyder's bringing Charlie back, but Snyder admits he doesn't have the power to navigate the intercolony politics on his own. The one person who can bring Charlie home is Helena, who Snyder was supposedly taking Will to meet when they were ambushed, and I'm thinking that's who she was on the phone with. That clearly there's something going on with that, but I like that he told her about Helena, because obviously that was a secret that he was keeping from them. I like that he told them about her. But Katie then questions Snyder's honesty and intentions, but he swears he wants to help them, but he has to make it out of this predicament to keep the ball rolling, and basically Broussard then arrives, beating on the door, and obviously, Katie doesn't really trust Snyder right now, but I like that he's saying, no, I do want to help you. But is Snyder sincere with this? Does he really want to help them, or is he just trying to protect himself from Helena? I'm not really sure, because we know how powerful Helena is. We know that he is scared to death, it seems, of Helena, so definitely that's very interesting. So Broussard arrives beating on the door. Katie answers while Will stands out of sight. The two go through the motions of not knowing each other or why he's there, and Katie then basically, Will takes off toward the back, and he says that he's just, their ordinary red hat looking for a missing person. He doesn't really think of much of him. I mean, of course, he doesn't know that the connection really between Katie and Will. And Katie then opens the door, and Broussard insists on Katie showing him the storage area in the basement. They close the door, leaving Will upstairs. Katie tells Broussard that Snyder is in the men's room, and Will called Special Ops, the Red Berets, who are on their way, and Broussard says they have to get to him first. Katie points out that Will's upstairs. Broussard informs her that Quayle sees Snyder as a priority, and if she can't get him out, Quayle's coming in. She needs to get Snyder out the back door, and this all ends. That's what they need to do. Just get him out, and then they're fine. So the two emerge from the basement. Broussard asks if everything is fine. After he leaves, Snyder questions if they fooled the guy, and Will points out that Snyder left his suit jacket on a chair, and if the mystery Red Hat Resistance members saw it, they'll definitely be coming back, because they know that whoever is after them, in the Resistance, is definitely with a Red Hat, which of course is not true. It's really Katie that's doing that. So Will's big plan is to wait the remaining 7 minutes for help to arrive and shoot anyone who comes through the door, and basically, I think it's a good plan, definitely, because, whoever comes through, they can just shoot them right then and there. However, they could be shooting at them. I mean, it's not a very well-realized plan, but knowing who really is after them, that's why it's a good plan. So Snyder, sensing Katie's lack of enthusiasm that her husband's risking his life to save him, makes a veiled threat about Charlie. Katie uses this as an excuse to attack him, try and push him out the back door where a swarm of Resistance members are waiting, but Will stops her at the last minute, and Snyder tells Katie that those plotting to overthrow him are far worse than she believes him to be, and he's genuinely trying to help her, and he wants her to know that. I mean, she really doesn't believe him, but I like he's saying, look, I really do want to help you. So Quayle has lost patience waiting for Katie, orders Broussard to get Snyder. Will spots a red hat through the front window, but he can't be sure if it's a good guy or a bad guy, and Snyder doesn't understand how anyone with ill intent made it through the screening process. Every person in the colony was filtered through an algorithm, and it's how the host knew who to select and what to do with them. So obviously, he doesn't know why this is going on, and Will questions if they got the data from the Rolodex, and Snyder nods. He tells Will they knew everything about them. The host had the entire data record when they arrived, and Snyder said it's how they found him. They thought that he was the perfect candidate for it. That's how they found him. And Will asks if Snyder has met the Raps, and he says yes. And when Will questions what they're like, Snyder says the experience was humbling to realize just how significant we all are in the universe, which, yeah, I kind of think that Snyder has a point there, especially with this invasion taking place. The humans aren't as important, whoever is out there, the aliens, whatever they are, the arrival, the Raps, seem to make all the decisions, and it really seems like they are the ones controlling everything. Although Helena really does seem to be controlling a lot of things around Snyder, the Raps are really her boss. That's the one that tells her what to do. Whoever the Governor General is, even I think the Raps tell him what to do, so that's very interesting. And I really do agree with what Snyder's saying there. He really does make a valid point with that. So there are footsteps on the roof. Will springs into action. He orders Snyder to stay in the office and give Katie a gun, tells her to go to the basement. Katie wants to help, but Will tells her no, she has to stay safe for the kids, and at least one of them is getting home tonight. The Resistance members then enter the bar. A shootout ensues. Will gets cornered behind the bar by one of the Resistance. Katie kills him to save her husband, and that is insane because this is someone that she worked with. And after she killed this Resistance member, there's no way that Katie's going back to the Resistance. I'm saying that now. She definitely, I think, is done with the Resistance. I mean, after doing that, I don't really see how you can come back from that. I mean, she just killed someone that she's working with. And obviously, she can't tell Will that, but basically she did that, and we then see that Broussard shows up last and threatens to kill Katie if she doesn't drop her weapon. Will disarms his wife, tells Broussard, still disguised as a red hat, that Snyder is in the office. Broussard enters the room, but there's no sign of Snyder, and the back door is open. Will heads into the alley after Broussard, just as the real Homeland Security shows up. The ops guy wants to know where Snyder is. Katie says that he escaped. Will pulled a fast one and hid Snyder in a cabinet behind the bar. The proxy emerges. He's got his game face on. He's tough now that he's got his armed minions around him. And basically, at home that night, Katie's a bit out of sorts after the day's events, which I don't blame her to. Not only did she lie to her husband and almost got him killed, but she gunned down a member of the Resistance. She killed someone, and obviously, she's really conflicted now because a part of her wants to stay with the Resistance because the best thing to do and for the best thing for her kids, but at the same time, she doesn't really see how she can still have an alliance with them after what she did. So, Katie as Will, she thinks that Geronimo's followers might come after them, but he tells her Geronimo's no terrorist, and he's just an ag guy who lives in the green zone, and Snyder's trial was a total farce. It wasn't really, Snyder, there definitely shouldn't be worried about Geronimo. So, Will has head out to catch the bad guys, but Katie's safe under the watchful eye of Homeland. Before Will leaves, he tells Katie that she's his hero. It's a really sweet scene, but again, Katie feels so bad because she knows that she's lying to him, and she feels terrible about it, and the ending of this episode was fantastic. I don't know where this is going. This is very interesting. Quayle and Broussard assesses where they are. The cell is disbanded for now, and everyone has gone to hiding. Quayle believes that Katie has been acting as a double agent, feeding them bullshit so she could help Will take them apart. Broussard doesn't look convinced. With a bounty on his own head, obviously, is he going to be able to protect Katie from Quayle? And that's how the episode ends. And Quayle, there is no way that he is trusting her after this. I'm saying that right now. I mean, there's a part of me that feels like maybe Broussard might be able to help him, but I don't really see how she can redeem herself after this. She killed someone who she's working with, and if she really was with the Resistance, then she wouldn't have done that. Me personally, I really feel that she's not with the Resistance. Now that she knows what they actually do, the violence that ensues, she's just not meant for that kind of life, and she doesn't want to be a part of that life, so to get herself out of it, she just won them off, and I understand why she did that. So I understand if she did in fact mean to kill that Resistance member. That made perfect sense to me, and we'll have to see where that goes, because that definitely, like I said, is very interesting. I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. But let's talk about this whole situation now with Broussard, because it really seems like Broussard wants to trust Katie, but there's a part of him that just really can't anymore. And next week's episode is actually all focused on Broussard. It's called Broussard. I'm definitely interested in seeing how that episode's going to be. But Will is finding out very soon. Katie, I think, is going to tell him at this point. At this point, Katie's going to tell him she's going to feel terrible. She's going to feel guilty. And we'll have to see what's going on there. Let's talk about Snyder, though, because Snyder brings up some important things that came up. First of all, Who was Helena talking to? We don't know. I am pretty sure at this point that that was the Governor General. That's what I'm going to say, that it was the Governor General. They were going over how Snyder is working for them because we know that she said that she works for the Governor General, and I really feel that that's who she was talking to. So I'm thinking that's who that was, but I'm not really sure. We'll have to see what's going on with that. But the Yonk is now destroyed, so the Yonk is gone, unfortunately. That has to suck. But basically, the whole situation going on with Broussard is very complicated because, of course, he promised her that he would not kill Will and that he would not harm him. But knowing that Will is after them, now she might have to break that promise. And I really feel that's something that he doesn't want to do because he told Katie point blank, I'm not going to do this. So I really do feel bad for Broussard. He really wants to stay loyal to her, but he can't really because he kept this promise to her. And he has Quayle up his ass saying that we can't trust her. So really, what is he going to do? Broussard's really the one where I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And then Snyder's claims, him saying that he was just chosen for this job, I don't know if he's telling the exact truth. Is there more going on than we think? I mean, we know that Snyder is constantly, berated by Helena and is always, Helena doesn't really trust him as much as she should. So we'll have to see what's going on there. But overall, guys, amazing episode. Absolutely love this episode. Crazy episode, definitely. We have 4 episodes left, and I am so ready for the rest of this season. It's really going to get crazy. And we'll see you guys next week. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of The Walking Dead, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.